I'm gonna tell you a story. First thing you gotta understand is time doesn't work the way you think it does. Especially when I might end up changing the order that some of these were about it. But my point is, you can call me Oracle because I'm the one who's talking to you. Welcome to the cult. Now, this is a Panchamrita part 2. Um, and that's, you know, some altar fruit. Couple notes on the Panchamrita and this being altar fruit. Now, first thing, is it disrespectful for me to eat my altar fruit? Specifically, no, actually. Which is part of what gave me the idea of actually doing this as a Panchamrita to begin with, because I remember back in the day when I was first initiated to this, Paul, by Buddha Paul, Kyle, who's the guy who effectively became like the head disciple of the like not really an abbey that like I got initiated out of, because it wasn't really like an abbey because like monks didn't live there or anything. It was just like it was a magic store. Anyone who used to it's closed now. Anyone who used to go to a place called Awakening Spirit down in Chelmsford, it's like right at Crossroad in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. That like, if you know Chelmsford, it's Death's Corner. It's that place. It's like it's a place that like needs a 4-way stop, and no one likes the fact that it needs to have a 4-way stop, and that people like to ignore that 4-way stop in like extra Massachusetts fashion. I don't know anyone who knows mass drivers beyond like the whole masshole like stereotype. I mean, like that's the kind of place that like defines that stereotype. I'm not even joking. Anyone who lives in Chelmsford knows exactly what I'm talking about, because it's the one that goes from like the Concord Carlisle area towards Lowell. And if I say those words and they're like, oh, I'm like, I used to live in Concord. They're like, oh, that explains everything about what you just said. Um, so anyway, fun note on the Panchamrita. So it's actually kind of ridiculous that it took me this long, because I've done this is like, I don't know, I don't even know how many Gonachakra I've done at this point, with like me doing experiments with blessings to determine the best order to do stuff. In my opinion, it's bless. Um, my list. It's like bless, cleanse, purify, heal, or cure. Um, Purify. I think it's something like it might be sanctify. Oh yeah, it's sanctify. And then there's like another like sort of cleansing type one. And then there's hollow, or hallow rather. There's hallow, and then there's consecrate. And consecration is around where you want to be doing for Gonachakra. In my opinion, anyone who knows better, please tell me, because I'd be happy to know if I'm like doing this wrong and need to be corrected. But it's kind of stupid that like it took me this long to be like, why don't I actually just do this with the altar fruit? Because like I've done it with like the traditional 5, the with the ghee. I didn't have jaggery or cardamom, so I used milk duds, um, uh, milk, honey, um, oh, whatever the last one is. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. Um, and that's one version. There's I have 3 kinds of like alcohol up there, and there's a version of it that's one of 5 kinds, which is fish, meat, wine, or just alcohol in general. You could also do it with beer if you wanted to. I should probably do it with beer at one point. Um, in this case, I'm doing it with 5 fruit, which actually isn't covered in that, because it's in this case it's like things that are like sacred because you're supposed to do them in a certain context, or not at all. Um, so there's like fish, regular meat, alcohol, grains, and then in those cases there's like the 5 grains, which are, if I remember correctly, foxtail millet, a different kind of millet that's effectively like a lot like corn, and I've basically used corn as a substitute for that in a couple times. Rice, wheat, and last one. I don't know. It's escaping me right now. And then I also did uh, one that was uh, if you saw that video, one that was right after I did the more like, oh yeah, this is another good example of like right versus left, in terms of tantric practices of like symbolic practice versus literal practice, because the original Panchamrita I did, with the five sacred substances, it was the milk, the butter, or the milk, the ghee, the honey, the milk duds, jaggery slash cardamom. I can't remember if jaggery or cardamom instead of milk duds was the one I used. I can't remember the last one though. And I think in those cases, like each of them is actually an analogy for the wine, the the grain, the two different the meat and the fish, and the other one, which now I'm actually forgetting as well. Doing 4 out of 5 out of all these, this is terrible. But in those cases, like I did something kind of ridiculous in each case, which is like I'd be okay. This is this mamsa or this flesh and this flesh and this flesh, and like this is this fish and this fish and this fish. It's something similar. Like did a lot of these cases, where I would take the literal and the symbolic and just sort of do both at the same time, which is a very, in my opinion, middle way to do both sides, which is, in my opinion, just a good way to do most things. Like try to actually observe what's useful from both sides, and not just like say, "Oh, this side's always right," because there's no side that's always right. It's just how it is, in my opinion, at least, and that includes me. Like anyone who sees this is like, "That dude is dead wrong." Okay, cool. Go ahead and tell me to screw myself in the comments. That's fine. What else? Because like this is like to tell you a story to kind of like give you some information that's like you can find it if you want. Most of what I'm saying is on YouTube if you want like to do like not YouTube. This is YouTube. Is like on Wikipedia if you want to do the searching. Like that's all stuff that's if you look at the references that like they use, they ain't joking about the references they're using. Like they can get into the history of what I'm doing. Um, I really don't feel like it because it's done in a very clear, concise way on Wikipedia that um, you know I could do and then regurgitate at you, but I feel like it's a lot more useful for like everyone if I just do it like this. Anyway, okay, I think I'm done. All right, that's a little bit of an update of like kind of sort of what. This is cool. Um, so I blessed this house with that whole interesting thing. There's this thing in term in Sanskrit that I came across. This word called chalita. Chalita, like many words, has a number of denotations of a little like literal actual like long list of words it could mean. But one of those meanings is song in 4 parts. Now that's really cool, and it's essentially a large part of like generally speaking, if you know a lot about metaphysical theory, it's kind of how magic works. You have like the astral plane, you have like the causal plane, you have the dream plane, you have the physical plane. Now we as like thinking beings exist on all 4 at the same time, which is why we are essentially all like living or substance and or basically like all living songs. That's just basically what we are, but we're all living songs in 4 parts, which is baller. Because like I understood the core concept of us being like Savan Sangita, I didn't actually understand, like, oh, that's why that works. That's why, essentially, the whole four-planar not real divide, because we live at all four levels at the same time, is, like, really effing cool, and just basically how things work. It's just, quick note on anyone who, like, has studied metaphysics, that's actually not that strange a thing to understand. But anyway, so that's Cholita. And, am I done? Yeah, I think I'm done for now. Alright. I might come back one more time tonight. We'll see. It's Oracle, and I'm the one who's talking to you. Dream safe, baby.